Hey, what's up, everyone? This is AJ, your host of the Startup Junkie. And of course, you know our company, ThinkGrids, thinkgrids.com, an Inc. verified company. Just Google us at ThinkGrids, one word, and you'll see all the wonderful things that come up about us. But it's not about me, it's absolutely 100% about you today. And I wanted to give you a little something to kind of think about over the holiday. All right. First and foremost, thank you for checking out the show. So let me just tell you again who I am and what this episode is all about. And also be sure to follow us on all your social channels, as you could see they're on your screen. And I'm AJ, your host of the Startup Junkie. And today's episode, number 14, is all about words matter and what you say and how they actually influence your success. But before we get started and deep into the conversation, a couple things I wanted to say. First, thank you so very much as a sponsor, or to our sponsor, Educational Infinite Technologies. Thank you for helping us spread the message of the entrepreneur, sharing tips, tricks, and strategies and mindset thoughts just to make whatever you're trying to do as an entrepreneur, wantrepreneur, or even a business owner, current business owner, a success that ultimately you can scale. Now, let's get into it, okay? Now, as we always do, if you're listening to this on a podcast, be sure to pick it up on whatever podcast you're on right now, network that is, such as Apple, Spotify, and TuneIn, because we're there. All right, and we'll shortly be on iHeart Media. So look for us at the Startup Junkie live podcast. Startup Junkie is one word too, by the way. And if you're watching us live right now, we do syndicate, so we will be on most of your social platforms, either live or replay of today's episode. Now, as normal, what I do is I always offer some words of encouragement by giving you something that I think you should either read or you should partake in. And today is about partaking in a game, and you'll see in a minute how it all relates to today's episode. Today's game I want to recommend to any of you entrepreneurs out there that are looking to try to get out of the rat race is the cash flow game by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, Robert Kiyosaki is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But let me say a little bit. Let me just put this here. Say a little bit about the game. Now, first and foremost, you can find this game on Amazon. We're not affiliates. We're not selling any kind of content with this live video or on our podcast. We don't do that. Okay. We just recommend things that we believe that can actually help you along your entrepreneurial journey. And specifically as it relates to the cash flow game, it actually helped me kind of get out of the rat race mindset. And of course, the rat race is basically living paycheck to paycheck. And of course, everything that we share with you is all about you taking 100% control of your destiny and being the master of your fate. So, why the Robert Kiyosaki game today? And what does it have to do with episode number 14, that words matter? Is because I actually picked up this concept from Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In his book, I picked up the concept of how important what we say actually determines our success. Now, many of you who have friends that are negative, that are always saying negative things, you do realize that the longer you hang around those people, whatever they're saying, and the more you take in that negativity, it will manifest in your outward actions. In other words, if you are around people that they don't believe things can actually happen or things can be done, and they're always negative about it, then I guarantee you chances are those things that you're trying to do will not be done, because as you know, and it's been proven, and there's been studies on this, we're typically a composite of the 5 people that we're closest to and that we're around on a daily basis. So if you're surrounded by people that are going places and they're successful, chances are you will go places and you will be successful, because we tend to perform to the level of our peer group. So the same is true for those if you're people that you're hanging around. If they're negative and all they do is like watch TV all day and they don't do anything with their lives, then chances are it'll probably, the same will probably happen to you. It's not saying that it will always happen, but chances are it probably will. So on to the topic. Why does words matter, and what does it have to do with Cash Flow 101 and Robert Kiyosaki in the book? Now, let me just kind of give you some context and the backstory of the actual book itself. Now, in the book, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, actually has 2 dads, right? The first dad is his biological father, who's he's like over the Department of Education in Hawaii. Look, real big governmental job, right? And his second father, he is the second father is his friend's Mike's dad, and from his friend's Mike's dad, he actually learned a lot about entrepreneurship and about the mindset of the rich. So the whole premise or the basis of the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or I guess can be summed up in just a sentence: what the rich teach their kids that the poor and the middle class don't. And it all begins with how they frame things in their lives. For example, how many times have you said, or people that say, when it comes to financial matters, oh, I can't afford it, right? Well, in the book, Robert Kiyosaki's dad was like, oh, well, we can't afford this, or that's too expensive, or that's this. And whenever they would sit down and have dinner at the dinner table, they would talk about bills. They would talk about all the things that they could not get, okay? Now, you juxtapose that with Mike's dad, which is the second dad of Robert, where instead of saying, I cannot afford it, Robert's dad, the second dad that is, which is his friend's dad, Mike, would always say, how can we afford it? Okay? Here's an interesting statistic, and I'm going to tell you why this matters, what I'm sharing with you today. Okay? Interesting statistic. According to, I think it was the Department of Labor or Census, 95% of the people who are 65 years of age do not have enough money to retire. In other words, they work so much and so long on retiring that when it's time to retire, based on a 9-to-5 or a W-2 paycheck, a W-2, W-2, in other words, they're an employee, right? They cannot, retire at the age of 65. And subsequently, these are the type of people, and I'm definitely not putting anyone down, because you have to do what you have to do in order to get where you need to go and to take care of you and your family. Those are the people that you see that are old. They're like working, they'll probably be like 65 plus. They're working in a Walmart, right? Or they're working in some other place where you figure like they really should be on a beach or off on some trip on a casino, at some casino, enjoying their lives, okay? But believe it or not, there is a mindset that actually got them to that place. Now, trust me, I am definitely not trying to be harsh here in what I'm saying today. I just want to share with you the difference in the mindset through the stories that are told via the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what the rich teach their kids that the poor and the middle class don't. And what the rich actually teach their kids and the poor and the middle class don't is a financial education. It is amazing to me that being one of the most educated countries in the entire world, financial literacy is not on the top of our list, in our public schools, right? I can't really say much about it being financial literacy being, in private schools, because I did not go to private school. I do know, however, that there are several private schools that I know of that they actually do teach private financial literacy. However, they don't primarily, maybe a few places here and there in public school. So the words matter. So the whole framing, around financial literacy and the words that the rich use versus the poor and the middle class is a simple shift. And that simple shift in how the words are framed really determines your success. It plants the seeds of your success. For example, the middle class and the poor say, I cannot afford it. Where the rich will say, how can we afford it? You know what I mean? So psychologically, when you, just as, all the friends that you're around, that if they're constantly saying negative things and they're not going anywhere, how it subconsciously affects you. And we know that 90+% of everything that we do in life is based on our subconscious. Okay. If you can subconsciously change your reference and how you reference money and how you reference success and how you reference getting to where you want to go, things can change tremendously for you. Now, I'm not saying that you won't have your ups and downs, because being an entrepreneur and success is an ebb and flow. There are ups, there are downs. Things are cyclical. One day you might be riding high on the hog, and then the next, boom, you might lose everything because maybe you've taken a calculated risk and things did not work out. However, if your mindset is right, then you won't necessarily be crushed by the negative things that happen, especially if you believe, If you believe in what you're doing as an entrepreneur, a business owner, a wantrepreneur, wanting to bring and deliver a value to the world, then you won't be crushed. You will look at a temporary setback as an obstacle that has just made you stronger. And now, because you know how to overcome that obstacle, if you've dealt with that, failure, so to speak, then you know that you can overcome and you're strong. That you can be a success. But guess what? Again, the words matter. It literally all starts with words. Okay. Here are a couple of things that just to break it down. And of course, today's episode is not scripted. There are no copy points, some things specifically that I wanted to address with you, that I wanted to make sure. I just wanted to speak from the heart and share this with you. So today's message is based on my experience, also based on me reading the book, based on me playing the cash flow game, and just based on just life experience as an entrepreneur, period. The ups and downs, the cyclicalness of it, and the ebb and flow of success. Now, here we are. A couple things that you should not say, or that you should say instead of the things that you might be saying. Number one, instead of saying, I can't afford it, always ask yourself, how can I afford it? You'll be surprised, because when you say, I cannot afford it, then guess what? The conversation is over. It's done. There's nothing else to talk about. The conversation is over if you believe you cannot afford it. However, if you shift the framing of what you're saying to yourself and feeding into your subconscious, and I'm not trying to get all ooh today. I'm just telling you, this is psychological stuff, and it's true. It's a winner's mindset and mentality, If you just simply shift that to, how can I afford it, then guess what happens? Your mind starts to think about all of the possibilities basically your mind goes into this working mode on how can you accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Whereas if you say I can't afford it, then it's done. Again, the conversation is over. You know what I mean? But you got to understand, conditioning your mind as an entrepreneur is all about creating flow, right? Flow meaning you're trying something, not worrying about mistakes. And then after the flow, you get so used to trying things, then going back and giving yourself feedback on the mistakes, or no, not even mistakes. Don't see, that's another thing. And then that's number 2 I'm about to talk about. Basically, how can you do better? So here is number 2. Number 2 is never say that you made a mistake. Okay? Never say I messed up. Okay? Because guess what? If you say I made a mistake and I messed up, and I'm saying talking to yourself. I'm not saying not admit if you made a mistake to someone in a business, or you can say, hey, and you got to accept responsibility. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is when you're talking to yourself, don't say, how did I mess up? What mistake did I make? You should say, how can I do better? Right? You get it? How can I do better versus I made a mistake? Again, I made a mistake means that it's done. Okay? You made a mistake. But if you shift the mind, you shift how you frame it and say, how can I do better? Right? Even if you didn't quote unquote make a mistake, how can I do better opens up the possibility of your of doing and coming up with multiple solutions to a problem that you may or may not have even experienced, because you are in the mix of flowing through whatever it is you're trying to do as an entrepreneur, and you're gonna have some bumps and bruises along the way. Again, don't beat yourself up by saying I made a mistake, oh, I messed up or whatever. Just simply say, how can I do better? Now, the third thing, and why words matter, right, is even though I say, don't say you made a mistake, or you say, I messed up, never, number 3, that is, never call yourself a failure, right? Call yourself, shift the thinking and call yourself, hey, I'm a work in progress, right? Because when you say that you're a failure, guess what? That's definitive. Will you have failures along the way in your entrepreneur journey? Absolutely, yes. In fact, there is a thing with startups. People rush to be the first to fail. You want to know why? Because the more you find out what does not work, you get to what does work. Such as, I think with Thomas Edison and the light bulb. Where they said that there were more than 3,000 or 12,000 or whatever that number was of things that did not work. Eventually, he had to come into something that did work to make the light bulb a reality. So don't say that you're a failure, although you know that you will experience failure. What you should say is, I'm a work in progress. And so just that simple shift in your words that you're saying to yourself that is affecting your subconscious mind, which you're always working on your winner's mentality, right? A winner's mentality is all about constant improvements and incremental improvements that lead to these enormous and massive results. Okay, so let's do a recap. Number 1, never say you cannot afford something. Rather say or ask the question, how can I afford it? Okay. Number 2, and what is that? Number 2 is never say you effed up or you made a mistake. In other words, never shut yourself off to saying this is definitive. I made a mistake and it's done. Not saying that you won't, right? But ask yourself, pose a question to yourself, how can I do better? Mind opens up with enormous possibilities when you ask yourself that question. And number 3, never say to yourself out loud spoken that you're a failure. Okay. But more importantly, know that when you are pursuing your entrepreneur dreams, there will be failures along the way. In fact, again, look at failure as a great thing, because the more things you find out that don't work, you get to absolutely what does work. But how you should shift, what you say to yourself is not only how can I, which is number 2, not only how can I do it better, but you have to shift and start thinking, okay, I'm not a failure. What can I do to ensure that what I'm doing is a success? Okay. So I really appreciate everyone who checked in today and watching this Startup Junkie. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Kimberly. I appreciate you. Cool. Always a work in progress. You're absolutely 100% correct, Kimberly. Thank you very much for checking in. Thanks for the hearts and the likes. Appreciate everyone. And then also I want to say this before we get out of here, because we got to go out and we got to have a lot of turkey this holiday. Okay. So I just wanted to share this message with you, just kind of give you something to think about as you enjoying your holiday with your family. And when you start back on Friday, start back on your grind. Okay. Just know that we do the Startup Junkie live for you, the entrepreneur, the wantrepreneur, the business owner that may be feeling a little stuck. And we're not just about the technical stuff, as you've seen me share websites with the best software you can use, the difference in the different types of website platforms, all these different things. But, they're just technical, right? In other words, they're democratized because technology is democratized and everyone has access to it. We also like to come to you with mindset and the winner mentality and things that you can do to make the thought better. Hey, I appreciate the like. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thank you very much. Thanks for the heart. Okay. Should have actually turned that notification off, but it's cool. Anyway, I really appreciate that. But the mental, back to that, the mental is the absolute most important. So my final word to you is, if you're hanging around people that don't have a winner's mentality and they're negative in their words, then you might need to get some new friends. Okay. Not saying that you should totally not defriend them, if that's a word, but what you should do is start hanging around people who share the same mindset and share the success or have the success that you're trying to accomplish and achieve in your entrepreneurial journey. Okay. As always, I'm AJ with Think Riz. Be sure to check us out every Monday and Wednesday, live here on this social platform. And also be sure to check out the Startup Junkie live podcast on the Apple, TuneIn, and the Spotify platforms. Okay. Until next time, everyone, I'm AJ with Think Riz, your host of Startup Junkie Live. Until next time, everyone, have a happy holiday and take care.